Welcome. It's a windy night out there. Come look at this watch if you would for a moment. They say certain people can see what makes it unique. Are you one of them? What if you held it in your hand? What do you think? Would you feel something special? Here, look at it closely. Item 517. A mass-produced pocket watch acquired in the early morning hours of February 16, 1913, by theft. Specifically, it's a 1903 Elgin 18S Model 11 pocket watch, open face, 58 millimeter, 17 jewels, black numbers with red outer numbers. Stem wound, 110 grams. There were 30,267 of these made in 1903, and this one is the same as all the rest of them, except for its serial number and, as you can see, that it lacks a crystal. Or is there something else? Anything coming to you? No? Is it a postcard and a story? Let's see if that helps. All right, let's see what we've got here. Postcard from San Francisco. Here it is. The lobby of the Hotel Manx at 225 Powell Street in San Francisco, February 15, 1913. It was another windy night, 51 Fahrenheit, 10.5 Celsius, and rainy. The Manx was one of the first new hotels built after the 1908 San Francisco earthquake in the middle of the Union Square district. For those who aren't locals, here's what we're talking about. Right about here, home of the Gold Rush and the Golden Gate Bridge, although that came long after RFB posted his postcard. Let's see what he has to say.
San Francisco, February 16th, 1913. Leave this morning for Sacramento, with a possible stopover at Stockton where the insurance and asylum is. I may check myself into the asylum because, well, I persist in believing I was briefly in possession of someone else's pocket watch, though I have no proof of it. More to follow. Be good, RFB.
Having arrived by train in the late afternoon, Robert F. Benson had his luggage sent to his room at the Manx and met immediately with his late uncle's lawyer, returning to the hotel as dusk was settling on the unfamiliar streets. It was chilly on the night of February 15, 1913, overcast, and night was suddenly coming on quickly as he walked the 5 blocks from the lawyer's house. It isn't known if he encountered anyone on that walk, but he arrived in the Manx lobby at 8:15 p.m. and strode across the lobby, stopping at the front desk to check for messages, there were none, and pick up a postcard. He had promised his sister back in Minnesota an update, so here it was. Nothing else of importance seems to have happened in the lobby, though it was reported that he paused once as he was walking to the elevator, as if he saw something moving from the corner of his eye. He shook his head and wiped his glasses on his handkerchief. The elevator attendant who took him up to his floor observed nothing strange and felt that he was sober. After getting off on the second floor, the attendant watched him stop at room 527, look up and down the hall as everyone does, and let himself in. It was Robert's first time in the city. The shades overlooking 8th Street were drawn, and he pulled them aside and opened the window to let the last bit of twilight into the room. He sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the traffic noises outside as his eyes adjusted to the dark, not looking forward to the coming meetings given how the attorneys' meeting had gone. Before his eyes were fully adjusted, a glint of silver under the radiator next to the windows caught his eye. The neon sign of the building across the street blinked on and off and on again, and something winked back at it from under the radiator. Or maybe just an optical illusion. Maybe light hitting a wall funny, or a silver pipe fitting under that radiator. At last he got down on all fours, skinny and awkward, and lay with his spectacled eye on the beige carpet to get a better look at the thing, which was most certainly not a fitting or an illusion, And so he extended two long, bony fingers into the questionable shadows under the radiator and, encountering something leathery, a rat or a bat perhaps, leapt back onto the bed with a shriek. Digging into his bag and coming up with only a tortoise-shell shoehorn, he returned to the battle and gingerly, ready to flee, prized out not a mummified mouse, but a pocket watch, sans chain and lens. The moment his hand touched the watch, he became aware that there was another person in the room. Someone crouched down along the baseboard in the farthest, darkest corner, a silhouette only, breathing harshly, moving crab-like, digging along the wall and getting closer. Robert froze in his awkward position, watching helplessly as the black form neared the corner, rooting, grasping, pulling at the carpet, until it seemed to hear a sound outside the door, though there was none. It rose and moved toward the door, turning as if to survey the room one more time, and then just melted into the shadow of the door frame. Robert held his breath, rose slowly, still grasping the watch and brandishing his shoehorn, but nothing moved in the shadows by the door or anywhere else. He finally forced himself to move and, having made a thorough examination of the room, he paused at the desk, picked up the telephone receiver and looked at it a moment before putting it back down. Sleep seemed impossible, so he sat down at the desk holding the watch and waited for daylight. But dawn and the increasing sound of traffic in the street found him slumped over at the desk, still clutching his shoehorn, but also a large silver soup spoon, which was most certainly not what he had pulled out from under the radiator the night before. So what do you think? Anything to that story? Or just another mystery from the road? Sleep tight. Don't let anything bite.